5,000 years ago, someone in a city you've never heard of flushed a toilet. The waste flowed through an underground drainage system more sophisticated than what most of medieval Europe would use 4,000 years later. By the end of this video, you'll understand how an entire civilization engineered running water, underground sewage, and private bathrooms in every home, half a millennium before the first Egyptian pyramid was even designed, and why everything you were taught about the origins of modern society has been quietly, deliberately incomplete. We're taught that civilization began in Mesopotamia, that the Greeks gave us reason, that Rome gave us infrastructure. But what if the greatest urban planners in human history were erased from the story? Not because they failed, but because they succeeded so completely that their existence threatened the entire narrative of Western progress. What if the truth was buried not by time, but by intention? The question is simple. Who benefits when an entire civilization disappears from the textbooks? For centuries, this was hidden from the world. Beneath the sun-scorched plains of what is now Pakistan and northwestern India, buried under layers of silt, sand, and silence, there existed a civilization so advanced, so meticulously organized, that when archaeologists first uncovered it in the 1920s, they refused to believe what they were seeing. The Indus Valley Civilization. At its peak, it stretched across an area larger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined. Over 5 million people, cities, towns, villages. It flourished from roughly 3300 BCE to 1300 BCE, making it one of the oldest civilizations on Earth and one of the longest lasting. And yet most people have never heard of it. They can name the pharaohs, they can recite Roman emperors, but the people who invented urban sanitation, who built the first known flush toilets, who constructed cities on precise grid systems that modern engineers still admire, those people remain ghosts. Let me take you to one of those cities, Mohenjo-Daro. The name itself is haunting. In Sindhi, it translates roughly to Mound of the Dead. When British and Indian archaeologists began excavating in the early 20th century, what they found beneath the earth defied every assumption about ancient human capability. The city was laid out on a perfect grid. Streets ran north to south and east to west, intersecting at right angles. The main avenues were 30 feet wide, engineered to allow carts to pass in both directions. Side streets branched off with mathematical precision. This was not a city that grew organically, chaotically, the way ancient cities were supposed to grow. This was planned, designed. Someone sat down and drew this city before a single brick was laid. And those bricks, every single brick in Mohenjo-Daro was manufactured to the same exact ratio, 4 to 2 to 1, length to width to height. Every brick, across the entire city, across every city in the civilization, actually. Harappa, 400 miles away, used the same bricks, the same dimensions, the same standards. That means there was a centralized system of measurement, a form of quality control, a bureaucracy of construction that we don't see replicated in the Western world for thousands of years. But that's not the secret. That's just the surface. Here's the thing. What historians don't tell you is what was happening beneath those streets. Below the grid, below the perfectly laid bricks, the Indus Valley engineers constructed an underground drainage system that ran beneath every major road. Clay pipes connected private homes to public drains. Wastewater flowed from individual bathrooms through covered channels into larger municipal drains that carried waste outside the city limits. Inspection holes were built into the system at regular intervals so maintenance workers could access and clean the pipes. Think about that for a second. 5,000 years ago, they had municipal sanitation workers. They had infrastructure maintenance schedules. They had a concept of public health so advanced that it would not be matched in Europe until the Victorian era, when London was still dumping raw sewage into the Thames and dying of cholera. Nearly every home in Mohenjo-Daro had a private bathroom. Many had what archaeologists describe as seated latrines connected to drainage chutes. Some homes had wells. Many had bathing platforms with carefully waterproofed floors made of tightly fitted bricks, sealed with a substance similar to bitumen. Water was not a luxury in the Indus Valley. It was a right. It was infrastructure. It was built into the very architecture of daily life. And then there's the Great Bath, located in the central area of Mohenjo-Daro. This enormous structure measures 39 feet long, 23 feet wide, and nearly 8 feet deep. waterproofed with multiple layers of brick, bitumen, and gypsum plaster. Its own water supply, its own drainage system. Scholars believe it served a ritualistic or ceremonial purpose, maybe related to purification. But whatever its purpose, its engineering is beyond remarkable. No comparable public water structure exists anywhere else in the ancient world for over 1,000 years after it was built. Now, here's where the mystery deepens, and where the questions become uncomfortable. Despite the extraordinary sophistication of this civilization, despite its cities, its trade networks reaching Mesopotamia and beyond, its standardized weights and measures, its exquisite craftsmanship in jewelry, pottery, and bronze, despite all of that, we cannot read a single word they wrote. The Indus script remains undeciphered. Over 400 distinct symbols have been identified on thousands of artifacts, seals, tablets, pottery shards. Linguists, cryptographers, computer scientists have spent a century trying to crack it. None have succeeded. We don't know what language they spoke. We don't know what they called themselves. We don't know the names of their rulers, if they even had rulers in the traditional sense. And that might be the most radical secret of all. The truth was buried for a reason, and that reason may be that it contradicts everything we believe about how power works. In every other ancient civilization, the archaeological record is dominated by monuments to kings, massive tombs, towering statues, palaces dripping with gold, temples covered in inscriptions glorifying divine rulers. In the Indus Valley, none of this. No palaces have been found, no royal tombs, no grand monuments to individual power, no depictions of warfare, no evidence of a standing army. The largest and most impressive structure in their greatest city is not a throne room. It's a bath, a place for collective ritual, a place for water. What kind of civilization builds infrastructure instead of monuments? What kind of society invests in drainage instead of dynasties? The evidence suggests something that makes historians deeply uneasy. The Indus Valley Civilization may have been governed not by kings or pharaohs, but by some form of collective or distributed leadership. A council of merchants, maybe. A priestly class. Maybe something we don't even have a modern word for. The wealth in Indus cities appears to have been relatively evenly distributed. Homes varied in size, yes, but even the smaller homes had access to drainage, to water, to sanitation. There are no slums in Mohenjo-Daro, no obvious ghettos. The gap between the richest and poorest homes is startlingly narrow compared to every other ancient civilization. This is the part of the story that gets suppressed. Not intentionally, perhaps, but through neglect, through omission, through the quiet consensus that civilizations without conquerors are somehow less interesting, less important, less worthy of study. We build entire curricula around Alexander the Great, a man who destroyed cities. We dedicate museums to the Romans, who built their empire on slavery and conquest. But a civilization that may have achieved something close to equitable urban living, that prioritized public health over military glory, that built sewers instead of swords, that civilization gets a footnote, and then they vanished. Around 1900 BCE, the great cities began to decline. By 1300 BCE, they were abandoned. The reasons remain debated. Climate change likely played a role. The monsoon patterns shifted. The Ghaggar-Hakra river system, which many scholars identify with the legendary Sarasvati River, dried up. Trade routes collapsed. Populations dispersed into smaller rural communities. Some migrated east toward the Ganges Plain. The urban experiment ended, but it did not end in conquest. There is no layer of ash. There are no mass graves filled with arrow-pierced skeletons. The Indus Valley Civilization did not fall to invaders, despite decades of discredited theories about Aryan invasions. It adapted, it dispersed, it transformed, and its legacy is still with us. The bullock carts used in rural South Asia today are virtually identical in design to the toy carts found in Indus archaeological sites. The weights and measures of the Indus traders influenced systems used across Asia for millennia. Some scholars believe that certain Indus religious practices, the reverence for water, the depiction of figures in meditative postures, the worship of what appears to be a proto-Shiva figure, fed directly into what would eventually become Hinduism. The civilization didn't die. It dissolved into the cultural groundwater of an entire subcontinent. But the larger lesson? That's the one nobody wants to confront. 5,000 years ago, human beings proved that you could build a great civilization without war, without kings, without gross inequality. You could prioritize sanitation over spectacle, infrastructure over empire, the well-being of citizens over the glory of rulers. And we forgot, or we were made to forget, because that example is dangerous. It suggests that the way we organize power now is not inevitable. It suggests that the suffering we accept as the cost of civilization is actually a choice. If this changed how you see history, the like button is right there. It helps more people find stories like this, stories that challenge what we think we know. The next time someone tells you that civilization requires hierarchy, that progress demands conquest, that inequality is the natural order of things, remember Mohenjo-Daro. Remember a city where every home had a drain, where every street was planned, where the grandest building was a place for everyone to bathe. Remember that the most advanced society of its age left behind no statues of generals, no tombs of tyrants, no monuments to war. They left behind pipes. And if you want to keep uncovering history's most dangerous secrets, the ones that didn't make it into your textbooks, subscribe to this channel. Because the past is full of truths that someone decided you weren't supposed to hear.